So I think we discussed about these. If you have any doubt, you can ask me first, then I'll continue. Is there any doubt to all? The topics which we covered, like the perfect substitute, the perfect complement, the optimal choices for the ordinary goods, and also the functions, functional forms, and their properties. Yes, if there any doubt. No doubts, can I proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today we'll be discussing more about the quasi-linear preferences. As I was mentioning, that the one of the good would remain constant. Okay, the other consumption would now be variable. Suppose if the x1 is the constant one and the x2 is variable, then your indifference curve would look like this. Okay, your indifference curves would move with one axis tangency. If we talk about its MRS, we know that marginal utility of 1 divided by the marginal utility of 2 gives you MRS. But we know that here, the one commodity, which is here x1, the constant here. Okay, there could be x2 also. But the only property in case of quasi-linear, that your one commodity would have a property of a non-linear function. Okay, so uh, MRS only depends on x1, not on x2. So this means that the indifference curves, excuse me, are vertical parallel shifts of each other. In other words, I was mentioning on that day, if we have this situation, then your commodity x1, this x2 would be the function of what the x1. You cannot define MRS for the constant variable. As consequences, the preferences are convex if and only if where the utility of x1 is a concave function. So the marginal utility of x1 decreases in x1. So the why it is decreasing, because I told you that a non-linear function where the utility would enhance or would increase gradually, then what happens? This curve would become a concave function, flatter than or like your total productivity curve. Fine. So it is giving you the diminishing returns. So at some point of time, a similar quantity or a constant quantity of x1, if you are consuming and x2 is increasing, your total utility would diminishes. Okay, so that is the concept for this quasi-linear function, and these quasi-linear utilities is actually the source of indifference curve, which is a property of indifference curve. So quasi-linear preferences have the attractive property that the consumption of x1 is independent of the agent's income. That is why we don't have income effect for the good x1 here. So this makes the consumer's problem simple to analyze and provides as an easy way to calculate consumer's surplus too. So with quasi-linear preferences, you would deal with the consumer surplus analysis later on, and this is giving you the idea of compensative variation and also the equivalent variation in income, that how to be calculated with this quasi-linear preferences. You can see here the MRAs, we are just talking about only x1 here. So it is dependent on this x1. We can see the angel curve for the quasi-linear preferences like this. Here in our property, in the functional form, we have the x1 commodity is your constant variable and the x2 is the variable commodity. Okay, so we have indifference curve 1, indifference curve 2 and indifference curve 3 like this, and this is the budget line. Okay, so we got this, the combination of two goods, because we have a vertical space for this x1, because only this much of the x1 we are consuming, and gradually your x2 is increasing. So from this combination to this combination and so on, you would be getting a locus point of this, and that will give you income offer curve. So your income offer curve depends on only this x2 commodity. That is why this income effect is constant, or we cannot define with respect to x1. Okay, so it's entirely dependent on x2. How much, if your income is increasing, then only x2's consumption is increasing. We cannot increase the consumption of x1. So the shape of angel curve, see, this will go like this first and we'll get a kink over here, and then we'll go like this. And if our case is reverse, suppose if x1 is variable and x2 is constant, then what happens? This vertical line would be like this, horizontal. Okay, and these indifference curve would have a tangency with this way. Okay, and your budget lines should have a tangency for the optimal choices, and then you will get in combination and your angel curve would have a kink like this. Is that clear? So in reverse case, you will have a horizontal angel curve with a kink, and in this case, we have a vertical angel curve with the kink, which is showing the relationship between the income and the good, which is constant. You see here, x1 we are talking about. Okay, so the good x1. Similarly, if you'll go with the x2, then it is normal. It means your income of a curve is increasing. Then the Cobb-Douglas indifference curves. This is based on if your C and D, we are assuming these are the powers of x1 power and x2 power. Okay, so it is half and half. Then we can see, yes, this kind of preferences in the Cobb-Douglas utility function, because Cobb-Douglas utility function says that the elasticities sum would be equals to 1. So your C plus D, that is equals to 1. Here what is the C is equals to 1 by 5 and the D is equals to 4 by 5. Again the sum is equals to 1. So wherever the sum is, sum of the elasticities of the powers are equals to 1, we call it Cobb-Douglas indifference curves or the Cobb-Douglas preferences. And here the Cobb-Douglas preferences you can have like this. The reason because how much the x2 would have a contribution in the consumption and the x1 would have a contribution in the consumption. So that's why your preferences would change based on these functional forms. Then we'll discuss about this boundary optimum. As yesterday we discussed this kinked situations. Okay, the kinked situations like the kinked dates we discussed, and also this perfect complements and all that. So here we are actually reaching to the boundary area. Fine, this could be in reverse case here also. Which boundary area you're talking about? Even this also, okay, and this also, wherever our budget line would have a tangency. Now, first of all, what is important here? If we are talking about in boundary optimum, so that is giving you either x1 is equals to 0 or x2 is equals to 0. I'm mentioning about either x1 star is equals to 0 or x2 star is equals to 0. It means दोनों में से कोई एक commodity ऐसा होगा जो 0 होगा. Okay, so that will be giving you this optimal situation or the optimal choice. So the MRS, if you want to see here, first of all, in ordinal cases, what we do, our MRS for the commodity X1 and X2, that must be equals to P1 and P2. It means your budget slope and also this MRS must be equals to each other for achieving and attaining this consumer equilibrium situation, and then only we can arrive here that optimal choice. But in the boundary optima, our optimal choice would be different because your slope of budget line and the slope of indifference curve, okay, or the slope of your P1, P2 and the slope of your MRS both are not matching with each other. Is that clear? They both are not matching with each other. That is why you're looking for this boundary optimum. See, the slope of budget line is flatter, and if you go for this MRS, that is having a steeper slope. Okay, so in that case, you are choosing suppose this because here we don't have boundary optimum. Here we have commodity X1 that is equals to 0. So in some exceptional cases, the consumer is choosing this boundary optimum for maximizing their own utility. So you will go in detail more with the corner solutions about it. Then the income offer curve and the angel curve for the normal goods. This is for the normal goods, and we can see yes, it is upward sloping because your this indifference curve are moving up, which is showing the higher level of utility, and then these budget lines are constant and the parallel. This shows that the price line is not changing. This is constant, and income changes, and as income changes, there will be more consumption and gives you upward sloping angel curve. The Cobb-Douglas preferences says that the income offer curves would be like this. Okay, And this also gives you then upward sloping angel curve and upward sloping income offer curve. So it is as good as the normal commodity. Then homothetic preferences are also revealing the same, because we know that the homothetic preferences are based on the similar proportion of the consumption. So if you feel that the X basket is good, so you want to increase either it to double, triple, always in the same proportion. Okay, because you are using in some combination, or X basket is offering you X1 and X2. So if you want to increase X1, you would definitely increase X2 in the same proportion. So that is called, it's a homothetic preferences, so giving you always in a same proportion. So this will always rise in a same proportion and gives you the upward sloping angel curve. The demand curve for normal goods, now we are coming on the demand curve as an optimal choice. Okay, till now we were discussing about the optimal choices where the budget line is tangent with the indifference curve, but now we need to think for PCC curve, or the price consumption curve, or we say it's a price effect. Okay, because income effect is just one of the path, and now you need to see how the demand curve is getting derived. See, the income angel curve is being derived from the income of a curve, and which is the locus point of all combinations of consumption when the income is rising and the price is constant. But when we do discuss about this price of a curve, we are actually not mentioning about income effect, or we say hidden effect of income, which is what a real income effect. Okay, but at the same time, you're talking about two goods, fine. The one goods analysis you're taking into the account, the other good would remain constant. It means if there is a change in the X1's price, okay, then consumption of X2 may get affected, but the price of X2 would remain constant. Okay, so the real income of a consumer would increase when the prices are declining with respect to X1. When the prices are increasing with respect to X1, then the real income is declining. So that is the very fundamental of this. You already have done this PCC curve, and this gives you for the normal commodities. We have here, this is initial budget line. Okay, this initial budget line will have a shift rightward. Okay, and then further rightward, this says from this point, actually the prices are declining for the commodity X1. So rightward shift of the budget line gives you a decline in the price, and a leftward shift in the budget line, this gives you increase in price of commodity X1. So here we have different combination after changing the prices. Now it is entirely up to the consumer what he does. See here, the PCC curve is upward sloping. In what ways the PCC curve is upward sloping? Can anybody tell me, because you already have gone through this PCC curve analysis? When you will find the situation of PCC curve is an upward sloping? Yes, guys, I'm asking. I'm writing here it is a normal good, but how would you define it? Why? It is upward sloping.
Ma'am, when the price of the normal good reduces, we demand more of it.
They are using
When actually for the normal goods, when the price reduces, we are consuming more of that good.
more of both. Okay. So that is why when you are here, then it means you're using this much combination, and you're using this much combination, and you're using this much combination. So both ways you see, the more of both goods the consumer is consuming. But why this is happening so? In normal goods, generally we don't see this. Still, I do call it normal good. See, the X1 and X2, when both are normal commodities, see, I'm writing here the normal goods, not the normal good. There is a difference. I'm writing here the demand curve for normal goods. So if you will draw the demand curve for X2 commodity, then also the demand curve would be like this. It means when your real income is increasing, or the consumer feels that he can save from the X1 commodities consumption, can also shift on the X2's commodity consumption, because he can save something, from the expenditure of X1. So that is why he wants to consume more of X1 and X2. But if I would write demand curve for normal good, okay, so that will be only for X1. So it means I am assuming only X1 is the normal commodity. And if I can assume it is the elastic, if I can assume that it is the luxurious good, then what happens? This particular commodity, this PCC curve would have a shape downward sloping. The PCC curve will have the shape of a shape here, the downward sloping shape. Why? Because now X1's price has declined. Okay, the law of demand says as the price of X1 is declining, then the consumer is consuming more of X1. Because I'm not defining here the X2 is what. Whether it is normal, whether it is Giffen, whether it is inferior or inelastic, anything. So I'm not defining X2 anything. But X1, I know if the price of X1 is declining, then of course I would like to consume more of X1. So I would shift. Then only my substitution effect would work out. Okay. Then I will substitute the consumption of X2 for X1. This I'll do or not. So here I'm not talking about a substitution effect. The X1 and X2 both I am increasing in my consumption, and that is why this price offer curve is upward sloping. But the price offer curve could also have, for the X1, a downward sloping curve. And the reason behind it, I'm not defining this X2 is what, and the X1 I do feel that is a luxurious commodity and law of demand is active. If the price is declining, the more of X1 I would consume. And because of that, you can see here the demand curve, which is a downward sloping. Even in this case also, our consumption for X1 is increasing as the prices are declining. And that is why the demand curve is downward sloping. Is that clear? If I would say the PCC curve is like this, it means backward bending. Then what does it mean? Somebody's pinging or what? Let me see. Okay. Yes, please. If it's backward bending, then what does it mean? If PCC curve is backward bending, then shows what? No idea? It's backward bending means you are not consuming this X1 as the price is declining. Okay, so the consumption of X1 would decline when the price is declining as a positive relationship, which we don't have with the demand curve. The demand curve always shows a downward sloping. It means inverse relationship between the variable X1 and the P1. But here, if your price of a curve would be backward bending 10 to this X2 commodity, then it means you're not willing to consume this X1 because X1 you are considering as a given good. And if it is backward bending towards X1 or downward bending, then X2 you are considering as given good. But still, you're not actually talking about X2's price decrease and increase. Okay, that price of X2 is constant. So we cannot define about it. But still, if X1, we are getting the backward bending towards X2, then of course the X1 would be an given good. Okay. If we have this horizontal price offer curve, then what does it mean? It means the commodity X2's consumption would remain constant and only X1 is increasing. This will show that, but still X1's demand curve would be a downward sloping curve. Okay. And if I do draw PCC curve like this, if it is going like this, okay, then what does it mean? Suppose it's going like this. It's not backward bending. It's just like this. Then what will be the demand curve for the X1? Yes, guys, you all know about it. It's just a recap. I'm just asking what will be the shape of demand curve if my PCC curve is like this. Whether it is inverse or it is an upward sloping curve. Waiting for response. It's a downward or upward sloping? Hello, am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am, but the slide is not moving, ma'am.
It's downward? It's downward sloping? Gopika, you're
Ma'am,
not.
no, ma'am, whether the slide is changing, ma'am, it's not seeing in the screen.
Okay. So, if your PCC curve is like this, okay, your PCC curve is like this, then this shows that still your demand curve is a downward sloping one, though the commodity X1 would now be an inferior good, because now you want to consume less of X1 and you want to substitute it for the X2. But still you're consuming X1 as the prices are declining. So that's why your demand curve would be a downward sloping curve. So you need to understand these all things, with the PCC curve, because this will give you an idea further how to derive the demand, and also how to get an optimal choices with different situations. So demand curve for perfect complements would also be a downward sloping curve. Here we have IC1, IC2, all these curves where we have a budget agency here, which because these are the optimal choices. The locus of all optimal choices give you a downward sloping demand here. The demand curve for perfect substitutes. Okay, I'm just coming back to this. We already have done this income of a curve, but the price of a curve would be like this. Okay, this is an upward sloping, and then you are getting this demand curve, which is a downward sloping. See why we have an upward sloping curve? Because the same proportion of both the goods we are consuming. And the demand curve is downward sloping because if price of X1 would decline, then X1 consumption would increase, but at the same time X2's consumption would increase. So for both commodities X1 and X2, the demand curve would be a downward sloping curve, and you will have this way of price of a curve. Now this is important for perfect substitute goods. The demand curve for perfect substitute goods, we already have seen these are the indifference curves, but the demand curve would start from, sorry, first PCC curve would start from this position, okay? We'll move on this position and we'll continue to this x-axis. Why? Because, yes, anybody? Is there any query? Okay. So we have here the PCC curve, which is starting from this axis, okay, vertical axis, will come down to this and then will coincide to this x-axis. Now, what does it mean? Basically, we, I think, discussed yesterday the three situations for the perfect substitute goods. If your price P1 is greater than P2, then the consumer would entirely consume this X1 commodity. It means the consumption for X2 would be zero. If price P2 would be greater than this P1, then, sorry, P1 is greater than P2, it means X1's price is now greater than P2, then the consumer would consume only X2 commodity and the consumption of X1 would be zero. I repeat, if the price of P1 is greater than P2, then the consumer would consume only X2 and this X1 would be zero. If P2's price is greater than P1, then the consumer would consume only X2 and the X2's price is zero. Oh, sorry, X2's quantity consumption would be zero. But there is a third situation also. If P1 is equals to P2, then the consumer can be anywhere else in this region. Okay, because both prices are similar, so we know that the slope of this curve that is equals to -1. So whenever the consumer will substitute X2 for the X1, they have to pay this much of a triangle. Okay, that is his opportunity cost. So his shape will be like this and this for the PCC curve. Now from this PCC curve, you are actually deriving X1's demand curve, and X1's demand curve shows like this. You'll come down towards this label, and then it is P1 is equals to P2, then your demand curve would be a downward sloping curve. See, you are starting from this, okay, because there is an hidden concept of X2 commodity where the P2 is comparable with this P1. So it is coincide, okay, because you're not consuming this, and then you will come down and here P1 is equals to P2, then there is a downward sloping demand curve. So that is only for X1's demand curve, okay. That is only for X1's demand curve. When both commodities prices are similar, you are actually consuming this way. This is an horizontal demand curve. It will be a downward sloping when P1, uh, what I could say, it would be a downward sloping demand curve where what we say in the normal goods, where the price and the demand of X1 has an inverse relationship. So this is just a normal way you are analyzing this your X1. Okay, but these are two exceptional cases as we discussed here. So this is just because when the P1 is equals to P2, both are equal, or we say that other commodities prices, fluctuating your pattern of demand. Why? Because if we go with the demand curve is basically coming out of three situations. That is coming from the law of marginal utility, okay? Then second is substitution effect, and the third is the price, okay? So because of substitution effect, you're getting this kind of, the shape of demand curve for the perfect substitutes over here. We can also see the demand curve like this. This is the inverse demand curve. We always see that the P1, which is a price over here, and this X1, okay? We always see this kind of a situation. X-axis always talks about the quantity demanded, and the price is always at the vertical axis. So this particularly in ordinary way, if we follow, then ordinary demand function would say that the demand would be the function of price, fine. But this is also the inverse case too, when the price is a function of x1. It means I can reverse these variables. The x1 would go here, which is independent variable, and the p1 would come down. This is what the dependent variable. So both are dependent on each other. So here the relationship between independent and dependent would change. In what situation? As we already have done in our basics, that it is the difference of change in demand and the change in quantity demanded. When there is a change in demand, you are actually talking about increase and decrease in demand. So whenever there is an increase and decrease in demand, the demand is, it's actually influenced by the other, factors which are available in the economy, or we call it, whenever there is the concept of law of demand, we follow the line ceteris paribus. Okay, so other influencing factor will remain constant. But in case of change in demand, whenever we do talk about increase and decrease in demand, it means the first thing which is happening in the economy, that is the change in demand, and this change in demand would affect the prices in the economy. Like what is happening today in the COVID-19's, if you do the analysis, like the people's demand is declining, the real income is declining, and because the demand is declining, you will see in the market there will be gradually the recession would come, okay. And why this will come? Because the prices, this will immediately affect the prices, because the producers will not be, getting motivated for the production. So gradually there will be the lower prices in the economy for all goods, as this particular situation will remain continued. So first thing which is happening, because of COVID-19, the demand has affected, and because of demand, this price will be affected. Okay, so this is the process in case of change in demand. But the change in quantity demanded is what? The change in quantity demanded says that there will be first change in the prices in the market, like oil prices, what we have in the economy right now. So the oil prices, it would get shuffled, then the further other prices would come, higher in the economy, because this will definitely affect the demand, and further our demand would decline, because the more prices, there will be the less demand. So this two ways analysis is important. The one is x is a function of price, and the second, price is a function of x. Okay, so the price is a function of x, we call it inverse demand curve. Fine. Then we can discuss about this ordinary good. Okay, the ordinary good analysis, I think before starting this, You should know first of all about the Hicks and Slutsky. Is there any remembrance of this particular topic? You all have done it in your micro third semester or maybe a first semester. I think when I was taking classes in the third semester, we discussed about this topic also, the Hicks and Slutsky. Just giving you that idea that how to go with the indifference curves analysis to assess uh, compensatory and the equivalent variation of the income. Okay, I think we'll do first of all this basics, and then we'll go into the depth of this Hicks and Slutsky. We are taking here because we all have gone through the optimal choices, budget lines, indifference curves. So we have here the first choice because we are talking about the ordinary goods, okay? And we have the case, we have this first initial budget line. This black one you can see, this is the initial budget line and my initial indifference curve. So my initial choice, okay, this is also my optimal choice, but it is my initial choice because indifference curve is following the tangency with this. So my initial bundle of optimal choice is this. Now, as the prices of X1 is declining, okay, this is the case of price decrease. So the prices are declining, then consumer may shift on the higher indifference curve. See here, I'm not showing the Hicksian analysis. I'm not showing any Slutsky analysis. It's just an ordinary good analysis. Okay. So what the consumer will do as PCC curve, we already have seen that PCC curve is also the locus of this. So you can even draw further and then PCC would be there. But what happens in case of Hicksian and Slutsky analysis? Hicksian says that you will draw a parallel line. Okay, you can see here there's a new line and the new price lines parallel line you will draw here. Okay, so you will got another tangency. Okay, with a new budget line. This is a new budget line. Whenever you take a pivot of it, it means the prices would remain same. Okay, so if suppose you are getting tendencies over here, so from this point to this point, actually consumer would try to substitute the goods. Okay, so it is just a substitution effect, and then consumer actually would move on this optimal choice, and the movement from this to this actually calls an income effect, and joining this point to this point actually we call it price effect. So PCC curve is of course this because it is joining price effect. From this point to this point as a pivot tendency we would get, so that is a substitution effect. From this point to this point if you add, then we call it this is the income effect, or we call it income consumption curve. So for normal goods, income consumption curve is upward sloping. The PCC curve could be a 45-degree line or could be a like this, in case of ordinary goods too. So that is just a fundamental thing which I wanted to tell you. Similarly, for Giffen goods, what happens as we discuss what is the Giffen good, it has a definition when the price of good declines, then the consumption of this X1 would also decline. It means you feel not to buy this commodity more. But the Giffen and inferior has one major difference. X1 is not inferior here, you need to understand. The inferior goods demand curve is a downward sloping demand curve, but the Giffen goods demand curve is just an upward sloping demand curve. Okay, so Giffen goods case is showing P1 and X1 as a positive relationship, but inferior good still shows an inverse relationship between these all things. It means the Giffen goods talking about a positive, whether prices increase or decrease, the consumption of such commodities will show a positive relationship. So if here we have initial budget line this and the price is decreasing for the X1, the initial consumption bundle when I started my analysis was this, then what happens? Your consumption would go as a backward bending. That's what I was saying, that the PCC curve when it becomes backward bending, then this shows that this commodity is X1 is now inferior in this case. So from initial bundle it is coming leftward. If it is leftward, your demand is actually declining. So your consumption of X1 is declining here. So we call it Giffen good. Okay. So this was all about the fundamentals We discuss the fundamentals only here, and we'll go into the depth of all now. So first, your fundamentals should be clear. Now, what is actually our, the next step of study? The one thing is the optimal choices, or I can say the demand curve. Demand functions. Mathematically, we need to derive for all the cases like perfect substitutes, perfect complements, also the complex list preferences and quasi-linear preferences. So everything now you would see mathematically what you have seen, just a basic and a fundamental through the diagrams. Okay, so that is one thing which you will do. And the second part, that is a compensatory demand function and an ordinary demand function. Both diagrammatically and mathematically you need to see. Then we will also analyze Hixian and Slutsky diagrams. We already have done, and you probably have done in case of first semester too. But this is important to analyze your quasi-linear, compensatory, equivalent variation, and analyzing consumer surplus mathematical analysis. So that is why these all things, both ways you need to understand, because the concept clarity is needed for that. So whenever you'll do mathematically, the diagrams would also help you in that to get the and derive the optimal choices. And then after, we would decide how the determine how the Slutsky equation actually we can get through it. So I think the mode of studies probably on Friday we have a class now. So the Friday we'll try to do this optimal choices and with the tutorial also, so that both the things you can do even parallelly. Okay, it means I'll give you the illustration and then you can solve your problems. Fine. So on Friday we'll do that. Is that okay to all?
Yes, sir.